Hello, my name is Russell Myers, independent for U.S. President for 2024. My views on violence are a bit more wide-ranging than most people's view on violence. By the way, there's not going to be a text version of this one. This one is all video. If you have ever known anybody that has been in an abusive relationship, you understand that there are many different forms of violence. It does not have to involve physical assault. There are many forms of violence, financial deprivation, emotional abuse. That tends to be the worst part of an abusive relationship. Is the emotional abuse. The attack on the mind is the worst part of abuse. It's the physical part doesn't even have to be there. Hunger is a form of violence. The deprivation of basic security, denial of medical care is a form of violence. We can go beyond that. At the systemic level, which is what I'm talking about. I'm not a relationship counselor. I'm running for president. And what I'm talking about is our system. So, denial of medical care or causing a person to be perpetually in debt. A person that has to work multiple jobs is, in a sense, incarcerated. They do not see the light at the end of the tunnel. They can only see themselves as always having to work multiple jobs just for their basic needs. And many people in our society are born into this form of incarceration, especially minorities, are born into this incarceration. And mass incarceration is a form of violence. And that violence has been escalating. For many years, we have been seeing, an increase in our incarceration rate. Well, coupled with that is the fact that we have more laws which define what we call criminal activity. And this is not just something that just ends. If a person is put in prison for a nonviolent drug possession crime, which is really the majority of our prison population, our incarcerated population. Just a second, I got hiccups. So if a person is put in prison for felony drug possession, something like that, when they get out of prison, their sentence has not ended. They may be monitored for many years, forced to pay, fines and fees, and so forth and so on. Meanwhile, they're eligible to be employed at far few jobs. They are also deprived the right to vote, often for life. They may be able to meet some criteria, which is not criteria that you have to meet. They have to pay off any fines and fees and so forth before they are going to be able to vote again. That's one thing. So if you got $10,000 in fees and fines that you have to pay off, and you can't even find a job to support yourself. And a lot of those fees just keep on getting added onto. You have to pay not only the fines and fees, but you have to pay a monthly fee for being monitored by the system. So you may never pay off those fines, those fees. And then even if you meet all the criteria, there have been cases where a person said, okay, you're eligible to vote. They go to register to vote, and then they wind up arrested and being told that registering to vote was another crime, and then they're sent back to prison for that. And it's another strike, because we still have the multiple strike system. A person with a felony, nonviolent felony conviction is deprived the right to public housing, to food stamps, to all forms of public assistance. And yet they have to check a box saying, yes, I've committed a felony, so they can't get a job. That's another form of violence. Like I said, all forms of prejudice are violence. Let's add to that. Classism is violence. Yep, you're made to feel less than. And you will always be made to feel less than in such a system. Now, I'm not suggesting we completely throw out our capitalism all in one shot. But we have to recognize that the system of capitalism under which we live is in itself, by nature, a sociopathic, even sadistic system. It is intended to oppress certain populations. If you're born poor, you're less than. You're going to get a less than equal education, which is going to lead to fewer opportunities further down the road. There's always the people that say, oh, well, you can work your way up, but what are the odds of that? Poverty. We talk about generational wealth. As a rule, we do not talk about generational poverty. But generational poverty is far more common than generational wealth. And that is by intent. That is by design. And who designs the system? The people at the top of the system. And if you look at how generational wealth operates, generational wealth is also generational power. We need to take steps to return power to the people. So only we can do it. More and more people in the middle class are understanding just how oppressive this system truly is, as the number of living wage jobs has declined, as more and more middle class people are being forced into poverty, or at least what they perceive as poverty. So they're starting to understand just how violent this system is. They're just starting to. They're not really there yet, but they're getting there. How much further do we have to go before they truly understand, before the people in the middle class, they used to be, a person may have been at one time upper middle class, or at least what they thought was upper middle class. a house, 2 cars, you know, uh, you know, a boat, and now they've had to sell off one thing after another, and they're struggling to make payments on everything that they've got. They're starting to understand it. The stress of being in poverty, of barely being able to make payments, you know, to be aging and close to retirement age, and you know that you don't have enough to survive on, and you're looking at living on just Social Security, which is notoriously inadequate, which is something we need to do something about. These are forms of violence, and we need to see these things as such. If we endorse such a system of oppression, of classism, of prejudice, of division, then we are taking part in that violence. We are the aggressors. So we need to look at our society as a whole. If there are homeless people down the street, guess what? They're not your enemies. They may be your future. If your neighbor is on food stamps when they were not before, or even if they were before, a hungry child is not your enemy, but they may become your enemy at some point, not by their own choice, because they don't have any other choice. We need to reconsider and rebuild our society in a more fair manner. And this is what I'm all about. And I know this is why a lot of people may not vote for me, because I'm not going to endorse this hierarchic, classist system that keeps the people at the top. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and whoever. You know, I'm not for it. It's not fair. And how many of you actually benefit from this system? Every time the stock market crashes, in 2000, 2008, 2020, how many of you lost your life savings or a significant portion of it? You can say, oh, well, I've made this, but, okay, but how much would you have if you hadn't lost so much before? So you're spinning your wheels trying to regain what you lost. And if you were already at retirement age when that happened, what are you going through now? Chances are you weren't able to recover everything you lost. Once it's gone, it's gone. Period. That's pretty much it. So if you regain any part of it, you haven't really regained it. You may have accumulated new wealth, but you haven't gained on top of what you had before. Taking away from you is a form of violence. What most Americans really want isn't some mansion with 28 rooms and 6 cars and a private lake or a private island. That's not what most people want. What most people want is just security. A roof over their head, not being afraid that they're going to be able to, whether they're going to be able to eat the next day. Not having to make a choice between the house payment and taking their kid to the doctor, or going to the doctor themselves. Making a choice, they don't want to have to make a choice between paying the utility bill and buying insulin or heart medication. These are just things that make us secure. And to be deprived of these things is, in what we term the wealthiest country on earth, that is a form of violence. All of this, these are all forms of violence. And we need to see these things as such. Are we part of the problem, or are we part of the solution? I prefer being a part of the solution. Now, how about you? Share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can, please donate whatever you can to help expand the channel. And let's build a better system for all of us. Again, if any of us are oppressed and insecure, then all of us are oppressed and insecure. All right. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a good day.